couple of words about the Swami before we get started here. Hi, Swami Bhajananda, how about that? Swami Bhajananda is a visiting Swami from Kali Mandir. Excellent singer, really. Beautiful music he puts out. Usha, also Usha, the Mataji of Kali Mandir is here. Anyway, okay, so you guys probably, everybody read the email I sent out, so you have some idea about the Swami. He's spent many years in working in Bellarmine as treasurer there, and for the last several years he's been head of the Delhi Center. I am personally indebted to him because he took me in the Delhi Center when the trains wouldn't. I was stranded in the Delhi Center on my way back from somewhere in the Himalayas, I think. And Swami graciously let me stay there until I could catch a train back to Bellarmine. And he also came here to Trabuco in 2011 before I went to India, so I actually got to meet him here for the first time. Anyway, so without further ado, our introduction here is our Swami Shantatmananda.
So we don't use mics, Arupeshani.
What is it?
You don't use mics here?
I'm afraid we don't have one in here.
Oh,
we're stuck.
Of course I can shout as we go on, but then initially it may be a bit low starting. As I warm up, probably I cannot shout all of you down.
We can close the
So-
door actually. That will carry you. It will not go out. Evacuate.
So we begin.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhormuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekaranda Surye Satchit Sukasvarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Respected Swami Yogeshananda Ji Maharaj, Swami Arupeshananda, Vajinananda, and so many of you, many of you are so closely known to me. I am extremely happy to be here this evening because I have wonderful memories of this beautiful place. I came here in 2011. It was a brief stopover, so to say, on my way to probably either San Diego or Santa Barbara, I don't remember correctly. But then itself I more or less decided if ever I come back to States again, this will be one of the places I will certainly visit. And now, as perhaps a bonus, Swami Arupeshananda has also arranged for this satsang, because satsang, the company of holy, is so important for all of us who are supposed to be serious practitioners of spiritual life. Because Sri Ramakrishna again and again advises the devotees about the merits of satsang, how they can help one immensely. It's Mahendranath Gupta, who compiled the Gospel, he had a dilemma. Whenever he was in the company of Sri Ramakrishna, it used to be extraordinary. Sri Ramakrishna going into Samadhi again and again. And it was virtually, a matter of joy. So much was happening, singing of the Lord's name and the wonderful discussions. So he used to feel so uplifted whenever he was in the company of Sri Ramakrishna. But then back home, he had tremendous problems. There was his wife and his mother, they wouldn't get along. There were several other issues, several other family problems, difficulties. So his mind would again, go down and down. So he was very much worried. What would happen after Sri Ramakrishna's exit from the world? So, again and again he would ask this question to Sri Ramakrishna. Sometimes in his own name, sometimes in the name names of others. That is how, in several places he has concealed his identity in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. He would ask again and again, is it possible for the householders to realize God? Something, which is very important for all of us. Although some of us are in the monastery still, we are also struggling amidst several adverse conditions, circumstances and so on. So this question, which is extremely important, and again and again Sri Ramakrishna would assure, yes, it's certainly possible. It is possible. And he advocated several disciplines. And perhaps the most important of which is this satsanga, or the company of the holy. In fact, when I came to Delhi, my predecessor had passed away and there was no one. I just came and occupied a vacant chair, so to say. In the memorial meeting, even then I could feel the pulse, the sense. People are feeling kind of orphaned. Maharaj was so charismatic and he used to pay so much attention to the devotees personally. So many were extremely sorry, disappointed, because here is a man who has lived 30 years in very much completely away from devotees or that kind of contact, and he has come to replace someone who was so close, so friendly, so affectionate, a fatherly figure and so on. But somehow in that very meeting, I gathered courage and told them that Sri Ramakrishna would say, you can add any number of zeros to 1, the value would increase, but if you remove the 1, any number of zeros would simply remain 0. I said, as long as our relationship is built around Sri Ramakrishna, that will be extremely worthy, wonderful, and it will only strengthen day by day. I said, when you come to the ashrama, you be careful, be selfish, because you are investing time, money, spending so much on fuel and so on. When you come here, make sure that you get something spiritual. Your visit to the ashrama, your company of the sadhus, should strengthen your spiritual life. Otherwise, your coming to the ashrama is absolutely fruitless. I said the same way, the monastics, they should also be reminded of their own goal of life, why they have come. We also come from very affectionate families, parents who used to care for us so much, but built so much hopes on us and so on. Why we have come away. So that was deeply appreciated by many devotees. Several of them called me to thank me and so on. In Sri Ramakrishna's own life, there is a very wonderful incident. Why I would like to share it with you. You might have read it, but still. There was a devotee by name Manila. He lost one of his grown-up sons. That boy is about 21 years or so. He died quite suddenly. And this Manilal just took the body to the cremation ground, performed the last rites, and came straight to Dakshineswar. He was just sitting in a corner, completely depressed and very sad. So Sri Ramakrishna, as usual, was talking so beautifully about God, about many spiritual ideas and so on. The people present tried to console Manilal. Of course, as people normally do, it's all transitory, people are bound to die, this and that. But nobody could make any impression on him. Absolutely, they couldn't make any dent. He was so deeply affected, so sad. Then suddenly Sri Ramakrishna's eyes fell on him. He asked him, Manilal, what is it? You look so sad. What happened? Then he said, I just lost my son who was 21 years old and I'm coming straight from the cremation ground. Then Sri Ramakrishna started describing to Manilal his own experience. His brother's son, his name was Akshay. He had come to Dakshineswar to perform some priestly duties. He was appointed as probably one of the priests of the Kali temple. He was a wonderful boy, very spiritually oriented. He had many good qualities. Mr. Ramakrishna was very fond of him. Now this boy suddenly he took ill and he was getting worse day by day. And suddenly Sri Ramakrishna said, you see, please show him to a good doctor. You are showing him to some quacks that won't work. He will die. Then Hridaya, who was present, was shocked. He said, Uncle, why did you say this? Whatever comes out of your mouth becomes true. Why did you say this? He said, I'm not saying, it's only the Divine Mother who is making me make such a statement. So it's not my own. And that boy literally died within a few days. Sri Ramakrishna was present at the scene. He was, in fact, describing this to Manilal. He was in ecstasy. He was virtually dancing. And everybody else was grieving, they were weeping and so on. So Sri Ramakrishna was explaining, I saw clearly that the soul of Akshay was taking the flight to freedom. It was as if a sword that was being drawn from the cupboard, from the cover. So I saw that he is free from all bondage. And that's why I was so happy and so joyous. But he says, but the very next day, in the evening, I cannot describe to you the pain I felt. I felt someone was squeezing my heart like a wet towel. So if that is my case, when I have absolutely no attachment, no bondage, no connection to this world, I can't even keep my clothes on, that's my condition. If that is my case, I can understand how the householders, how people like you would feel. After all, he is your own son. And then suddenly he started singing a beautiful song in Bengali. It's like this. Shiv Jeev Saj Samare Rana Veshe Kal Veshe Praveshe Tor Ghare. It means, O Jiva, get up, put on the clothes for war, dress up for a war. The Lord of Death is trying to enter your house. Tackle him head on. Put on the war clothes. Dress up for the occasion. And by the time he finished the song, the whole atmosphere was so surcharged with an extraordinary feeling that everyone felt so uplifted. And Manilal was, just coming round. And Sri Ramakrishna went and sat near him and then slowly explained to him, these are all unavoidable on this earthly life. But then, they alone really are wise. They alone finally make the goal. Those who get up, those who gather themselves, focus their mind on the higher ideas of life and so on. And by the time, Manilal was completely assuaged. His grief was gone largely. Then he said, I know nobody could wipe this grief from my heart. That's why I came straight from the burning heart to this place to be with you. That is the power of satsanga, the power of holy company. So, I feel so happy to be with all of you this evening. Of course, earlier it had been announced that I will speak about freedom or the ultimate goal of life. Of course, to talk about freedom, I think we should all be aware, we should know that we are not free or that we are bound. That's the first condition. If you are not aware at all, then how do we talk about freedom? There was a great saint, his name was Ramana Maharshi. He used to live in South India. He was considered a great Brahmagnani, knower of Brahman, and he was. He lived about 60 years back. So even when he was alive, he used to just wear a loincloth and move about in the ashrama. during his life, suddenly, he saw a lot of activity in the ashrama, a lot of noise, and people were going here and there, extremely busy. So he asked, what is it? What are you about? What are you going to do? Oh, Bhagwan, we are going to celebrate your birthday. He felt so sorry, downcast, and then, in South, particularly, it's a habit, when something unbelievably worthless happens, people strike their foreheads like this to express their, disapproval. Oh my God, on a day when all of us should grieve, when this eternal Atman, the boundless, birthless, infinite Atman got caught in this cage of bone and flesh, instead of weeping and you are celebrating, and he simply walked away. So, freedom, unless we understand that we are in this condition, we have to work for it, it's very difficult. Anyway, today I shall try to talk to you briefly about the idea of freedom from the point of view of Hinduism, but then I also felt that it is universal. The points, the ideas that are discussed are, to my mind, applicable to every serious, sincere, aspirant practitioner. Please bear with me for again and again bringing this word. In this tradition, we call it also a tradition, the Ramakrishna Sarada Vivekananda tradition. One important idea, one fundamental quality or qualification that is necessary to benefit from this tradition is you should be a serious practitioner. It's not just coming for intellectual satisfaction or to spend some time. Yes, there will be other fringe benefits, but the staple food, the real thing, if we are sadhakas or practitioners, we gain enormously. And we gain in innumerable ways, unbelievable ways. It can't be described. How did it happen? We can't really say. People have benefited that way. So if we are serious, yes, it can be of great help in our journey, in our pursuit of truth. So, Hinduism talks about 4 essential attainable objectives of life. They are called dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma is the most fundamental idea, the most valuable idea in Hinduism. Dharma, it comes from a Sanskrit word meaning to hold, to sustain, to uphold, to support. The Sanskrit equivalent is dhareti, means to really hold, support, sustain. That's something very vital and very, very fundamentally essential for sustenance. That they call as dharma, the guiding principle that really guides and regulates all our activities, our life. This as the starting point. Based on dharma, you can acquire wealth. That is artha. Hinduism does not say that everyone should become a mendicant, everyone should renounce everything, give up and go to forest and so on. It says you can acquire wealth, you can have wealth, work for it, provided the effort passes through the filter of dharma. Guided by dharma, you can acquire wealth. And then kama, that is enjoyment or satisfaction of desires, that is permitted. Once again, if the desires, if the effort is again passed through the filter of dharma. So based on dharma, you can acquire wealth, you can satisfy your desires. So that means, it removes in one go all unethical, immoral, illegal efforts in any direction. So life in the society was so beautiful, so regulated because everyone was governed by this internal law for oneself, namely dharma. Because this dharma itself is such a big concept, we can go on probably next time if Rupeshendra calls again, we can keep it. So, based on, in essence, we can understand that this is a very important concept, something that really helps you, guides you, sustains you, something from deep within yourself. It's not something you search outside. It's inborn, it's natural to you. And no one can ever not recognize it. It's always recognizable. So, because life was in the society was guided by the principle of dharma, it was so nice. And then they say, after acquiring wealth or after satisfying desires, you should progress to the ultimate goal of life, namely moksha or liberation or freedom. In fact, one of the scriptures, a well-known text called Vivek Chudamani, written by the famous Shankaracharya, it defines, the goal this way. Durlabham treme vaityat devanugraha hetukam manushyatvam mumukshutvam mahapurusha sanshaya. He says, it's extremely difficult. Only the fortunate, only by the grace of God, you get these three things, namely a human birth, the company of the holy, and the desire for liberation or freedom or moksha. Now, this freedom is a very important concept. If you ask me, I would say that if people are asked to describe all their endeavors, whatever they are striving, whatever they are attempting, all the energy, effort, everything, if they are given the choice, you have to use only one word, perhaps this is the word that can describe everything. Now you can go back and think for yourself. Maybe at the end of the day, when we have some question and answers, you can raise the issue. But I feel that this word aptly describes all our endeavors. But generally, we find that human beings are deeply engaged in some of these pursuits. Now the tremendous effort to become economically independent, wealthy, to be well supported in terms of earnings and so on. What is that? That is our attempt to be free from the idea or the position of lack of wealth. That is one freedom which people are constantly seeking, namely the freedom from the abhava or the want of money or wealth or comforts. And then we are constantly, every day, every hour, every minute, whenever there is even the least need, least worry, least occasion, we keep running to this doctor or that doctor, homeopathy, naturopathy, Ayurvedic, sympathy, whatever it is. Now what is all that? Again, to be free from the idea of lack of health. Health is another area which constantly bothers us. We are afraid that we are bound in that direction by that idea. So we want to be free from that. Even at the age of 70, 80, people are busy with cosmetics, trying to look younger. That is, to be free from the idea of old age, everything. So another major area, if you see that, the interpersonal relationship, the difficulties. We again want to be free from the abhava or the lack of communication, lack of warmth, lack of understanding, lack of being together in our interpersonal relationships. So these are, I generally see these are the major areas where we keep going round and round all our life. People are constantly working to be free from these lack of freedom. But then, are we really successful? Now, supposing you have so much of income, you feel that it is not adequate, you want to increase and be more economically free. So you put in more hours of work. You take up additional job somewhere. Immediately, your health suffers. So the little freedom that you enjoyed that's taken away. Or you lose in the area of interpersonal freedom because your spouse, your children, your dear and near, they complain that you hardly give us any time. What is the use of earning money more and more? For whom are you earning and so on? So, in our constant efforts to be free, to gain freedom in one direction or one area, we land up losing freedom elsewhere. And it seems to be an unending, lifelong running around trying to get some freedom or other. But Hinduism gives a very beautiful idea. They say that we can tell you about that freedom which would in one go take care of all this lack of freedom in every direction you turn, or in every effort that you are feeling this absence of freedom. All that can be taken care of by this single idea of freedom. That they call as this moksha, or the ultimate freedom. So I think, what we have been talking about, these are all not religion specific. Although they have come from, basically they are given as ideas of Hinduism. Don't you agree that this is equally applicable to people practicing any religion? Because these are all more fundamental ideas relating to our life itself. So I think anybody can work on all this. So that is why I said, although they are essentially from Hinduism, but I feel they cover the entire humanity. And everyone should think about all this because they are so essential for each one of us. Now, what is it that great freedom that Hinduism talks about? Hinduism says this whole lack of freedom, the idea of bondage, the idea that we are bound, that we are not free, it says it comes from a wrong understanding or a lack of proper understanding about our real nature. Hinduism says that we are all birthless, deathless, eternal, infinite, ever blissful entity. You give the name Atman, Brahman, consciousness, whatever it is, he says that is our real nature. Because we do not remember that, it's already there. It says you are that. But we have forgotten that, we don't remember that, we don't recognize that. It's not a living experience, not a day-to-day experience for us. That is why we feel bound, we feel that we are not free. We may have to look at it a little more closely, examine it to understand whether it really makes sense, whether we are one with it, whether we understand. But then, I tell you, just look at this very concept. Let's forget whether we can really make it, whether we are up to it. They're all secondary. Just even this very idea, I think it's extraordinary. To think that we are that extraordinary, boundless, birthless, deathless, eternal, ever blissful entity. I think this very idea is very noble and very extraordinary, extremely strengthening, invigorating, very powerful. I think you just go back and just think about it every day for some time. I think, over a period of time, as we become more and more associated with this idea, probably, when it becomes our second nature, then, when it dawns on us, you will be simply swept over by this idea. That it can be that great, that powerful. Ultimately, when you really think of our difficulties, our shortcomings, our problems, nothing will stand. Everything will be washed away. This one idea, if you can really get hold of that, if it really becomes, part of our understanding, our life, or whatever it is, there can be no place, no space for any shortcoming, anything that is negative, no jealousy, no fear, no threat, no meanness. Nothing can find a place, because the point is, the moment you assert, the moment you feel that you are that, as a corollary, it follows that every other entity is that. You cannot say, I am God, you are devil. So, the moment you accept this idea that I am that supreme, extraordinary entity, then it dawns, it follows as a corollary that every other being, every other entity is of that nature. So obviously, there cannot be, it in one go, it wipes out all the dividing lines. Hinduism says any division, the divisions as rich and poor, educated and uneducated, black, white, this and that. It says even the division as man and woman, everything is artificial. Everything is secondary because ultimately, if you understand you are that, supposing you accept this idea, how can there be any division? In infinite you cannot say there is man and woman, there is rich and poor, old and young and so on. So the whole secret Hinduism says is to get hold of this idea. Make it part of your life. So Swami Vivekananda gave a very beautiful definition of the same idea, perhaps a little more understandable, a little more graspable you might say. He said, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest his divinity. And he gave some formula how it can be done. And the end he said, and be free. That is the whole of religion, he says. Doctrines and dogmas and books and temples and forms are but secondary details. What a wonderful idea. He says, realize that you are that extraordinary. Divinity is a word. You can call it infinite, you can call it unlimited, you can call it anything. It's all only words. Know your real nature and be free. Freedom. That is what you would get if you know that. And that, he says, is just the essence. That's the whole of religion. Everything else is only secondary. Now, as against that, where are we today? Where are we? What exactly we feel? What's our idea? What's our understanding of ourselves? We constantly, every moment of our life, we feel we are this body, we are this mind. We just can't go about it. That exactly is the problem. Is it hot? So that is the problem. It says again and again, we feel that we are this body, we are this mind. Go back, think about it. Examine yourself, where we are bound. What prevents us from realizing we are that extraordinary entity? The idea that we are this limited being, we are this body, we are this mind. Go back, think about it. You will find that it really makes sense, this idea. Now, supposing, Swami Arupeshananda sent a mail to so many. Some wanted to come. Their mind said, oh, there's going to be a talk. Some Swami is coming all the way from India. Let me go and listen. And the body says, no, the climate is changing. It is chill. You catch cold. Don't strain yourself. You always overdo things. You can hear from others. After all, they might record. You can listen later. And the mind accepts. That is how the body overpowers the mind. And that's how we are caught. But there are moments when the 9/11 was being telecast live. 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. People who can't sit for 15 minutes. Sitting 6 hours glued to TV. How it is possible? The mind simply says, I'm going to watch it. Go to hell to the body. And the body obeys. I can give you a beautiful example from my own life. There is a brother monk in our order. He is elder to me. He is a doctor by qualification. Long ago it has been declared that he is a back pain patient. He never bends. In the monastery, it's always the custom to bow down and touch the feet of elders amongst monks, certainly. But no one expects him because they know he is suffering from back pain. He will do only just namaskar. And sitting on floor is something unimaginable. Even you won't sit in normal chairs. Special chairs where the angle is such that his back is supported and so on. But in 1986, a World Cup, the football World Cup was held in Mexico. And in India, all the matches were telecast throughout night. A person who had never sat on the floor, both of us were sitting side by side at the floor and watched day after day all the matches. Now you see how? It's not that, he's hypocritical at other times. There are times when the mind completely overpowers the body. Many of you, I don't know, there are not many elderly mothers here. So, one day, you are having terrible headache. And then the mother declares in the house, today there's no cooking. Manage whatever is there in the fridge, heat it in the micro oven, eat and go, whatever you do, but I'm not going to get up, I'm going to take rest for the whole day. I'm extremely ill, I'm suffering from headache, I just can't get up. Now, suddenly you get a call from your daughter who is somewhere in London. Mama, I'm just coming. I'm going to give you a surprise. There's a conference in California. I'm reaching in another half an hour. But just I'll be with you for an hour. Then I have to go and attend the conference. And from there I'm straight flying back to London. Now will you be lying on the bed? Simply you get up, prepare everything, be ready. Put on your most cheerful face, countenance. When she comes, you hug, you talk, you spend next 1 hour in great delight, you're so happy, no trace of headache or any suffering. The moment she steps out of the house, again you hit the bed. Oh, I'm having terrible headache. Now you see, it is not false, it is true. It is true. Because the body and mind are so closely related. In certain moments, the mind asserts. Now the difference is, these are all sporadic incidents happening not because of our effort, happening in spite of ourselves quite often. What Hinduism says is, by constant practice, by deliberately and assiduously and consciously working for it, it's possible to make this an asset of our own. That's what it says. That requires training, that requires some adaptation, some methodology, some serious, intense sadhana, or you must become a real practitioner. That is where Sri Ramakrishna, Mother and Swami Vivekananda, they come and occupy a huge space. So, the incident that we talked about, it's very clear, although we are very often, we are always in the idea that we are within this body-mind complex. There are moments in our life, and all of us have experienced at some time or other, that we can clearly transcend our bodily limitations. But the Shastras, the Hindu scriptures say that you must do it in such a way, through such practice, that this should become your second nature. And this should become part of your life. See, it's not just mere theory. People have achieved it. People have done it. I will give you 2 or 3 examples to make it clearer, or to give you the confidence that it's possible for all of us. Ramana Maharshi, about whom I was talking, he was such a great jnani, such a knower of Brahman. He was completely one with that idea that he was the Supreme Self. He developed some cancerous growth. It was a huge growth in his arm. The doctors wanted to operate that. They wanted to give him anesthesia. He said, what are you talking about? No need. Just extended his arm and they operated. Is it possible? Just take a pin and make a prick, then probably the roof will be simply blown open by our shrieks and shouts. Now, in our own tradition, there was one Swami, Turiyananda, again, who had really very seriously practiced this even from boyhood. He used to take bath in Ganges as a 10-year-old boy or so, one day he was taking bath, he saw a shark approaching. His initial reaction was to just quickly swim to the shore. Then he remembered, no, I'm reading this day and night that I am that Supreme Self. What does it matter? This body, what is its worth? Simply he continued to take bath and nothing happened to him. There are many, many incidents. Not only that, if you are with that idea, it will really work. Now this Puriyananda, he developed a huge carbuncle on his back. It was a very serious operation for several hours. Again, the doctors wanted to give him anesthesia. He said, no need. Just give me indication, give me notice. I will prepare myself. They informed him. He just withdrew his mind from the body and they could operate without anesthesia. Not only that, every day the doctor would come and dress the wounds. Again, only the doctor would inform him. He would say, yes, I am prepared. You go ahead. One day, the doctor, without intimation, came and just touched the spot where the wound was. Immediately, Puriyanandaji gave a shriek of pain and the doctor was shocked. Swami, I operated and every day I dress. Today what happened? See, today you didn't inform me. I was not prepared. My mind was in the body and that's why I felt the pain. See, these are all real life incidents. Another great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Brahmananda, an extraordinary spiritual giant. He was walking in the street along with some devotees. Suddenly they saw a huge bull rushing towards them. He simply just showed them aside, said, just go away. And he simply stood still. The bull came very near and it also stopped, stand still and went away. Because at that level, when you are really one with that idea, it's impossible for you to harm anybody or be harmed by anybody. Because all that is happening in this world, all the hate, all the divide, all the wars, all the difficulties, everything is because we have divided ourselves. We feel that we are different from each other in ever so many ways. Once you realize that idea, it's not possible for anyone to harm you, nor can you harm anybody. Another incident. Swami Vivekananda was during his wandering days. He was sleeping. He was just lying down beneath a tree in a forest. He saw a tiger approaching him. His first idea was to climb the tree to safety. Then he remembered, have I not realized that I am the Supreme Atman? Doesn't matter if this body helps a tiger to satisfy its hunger, let it be. He simply lay there. The tiger came very near and it went away. And the whole night he just rested beneath the tree only. So, it's possible. It has been achieved by others. We can also attempt, but there are serious disciplines to be followed. We must make a beginning. First understand where we are. Take stock of ourselves. Are we really in need for such an attempt towards freedom? Once we understand our real position, we cannot but go for such a drive or such an effort because it will be impossible to stay bound that way. Because many of us don't understand. Many of us just forget ourselves in this and that. That's why we are not making such a serious effort. Sri Ramakrishna also used to give a beautiful example. Initially, when the child comes near the mother has a lot of duties to perform. She gives the child this toy or this or that, some lollipop, makes it forget. It's busy with that. Then at one point of time it throws away everything and starts crying, and the mother has to lift her up in her arms. She cannot delay anymore. Similarly, if we understand that we are in such a condition, we have to work for it, we will begin. Swami Vivekananda gives a beautiful solution. He says there are 4 ways of doing it. That he calls as 4 yogas: jnana, bhakti, karma, or raja yoga. So there are 4 approaches, because Swami Vivekananda again said, the human personality is made up of these 4 types. Not necessarily exclusively one type, but predominantly. Because somewhere else he says no yoga is completely independent of the other yogas. But then predominantly, what is your drift, what is your nature, what is your predilection or preference? So you can work accordingly. You can either take up the idea, the jnana yoga, the path of knowledge, where constantly, there is an idea of discrimination. Trying to find out, who am I? Why do I feel bound? Anything, again, quite often, how do we take courageous decisions? Because when we understand in some way or other, that's why somewhere Swamiji says, Swami Vivekananda, even a shoe shiner, if he has some idea of this Vedanta in him, he will shine the shoes in an extraordinary fashion. See, because at that point, what happens? When even in a very small way this understanding dawns in us, then suddenly you feel that you are no less than anyone else. You are as big or as great as Obama or any millionaire or billionaire or whatever it is. Why? Because all the moment you wipe away differences, that once you know that you are infinite, nothing can be bigger than you for that matter. So when a person who does a apparently lowly job or something which is less paid or whatever it is, the place in the society is not so great, the moment he understands that is my real nature, I am doing this because of the needs of this body, I don't care, then he walks with his head erect. He no longer feels that he is inferior to anybody. That is what Swami Vivekananda calls as practical Vedanta. So it can be done through the path of knowledge, by this constant inquiry. Whenever there is anything that limits us, whenever that reminds us of the body, again and again to question, to inquire, to find out, to discriminate, is one path, a difficult path. Then of course to the path of Raja Yoga, of deep contemplation, meditation, through various stages, it's also possible if you are given to that. Again, a difficult path. Of course, he advocates, he elaborately discusses, and he is quite emphatic about advocating the path of karma, the path of service, karma yoga, not just action or karma, but karma yoga, where yoga is the link, the association with something higher, something superior, something sublime. When your work is associated with the idea that you are working to realize your true nature, or you are serving with the idea that you are serving the divinity of the supreme person, supreme thing in the other, that really makes it karma yoga. Or even the idea of bhakti or bhakti yoga, where you do everything as an offering to the Lord. These are some of the ways in which this can be attempted. In the Gita that clearly says how it's possible. Yat karoshi yadasnashi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you eat, whatever you do, whatever you give by way of gift, whatever sacrifices you make, even the penances that you undertake, offer everything to me. So, if you again, that's what, everywhere, from the plane we are functioning, we must go a notch higher and link all our actions, all our workings, everything to a higher idea. And that is the beginning of this search for freedom. I am sure with the blessings of the Lord with our own chosen deity, whomsoever we worship, whomsoever we adore. If we make a honest and serious attempt, begin somewhere, I'm sure all of us will slowly find a way and reach the ultimate destination. Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
Very nice.
Questions?
So in case
Time
you have...
for questions.
Huh?
Time for questions.
Yeah. Time for
You have questions, Maharaj?
Are there any questions? Anybody have any questions for the Swami? Freedom, India, monastic life, spiritual life, anything?
I thought he was so clear.
Thank you.
Swamiji,
Yes.
freedom is so beautiful, and being from India and living in America, there's freedom both places. Is there a difference, or is the same freedom?
India and America?
Yeah, I mean, it's freedom both places. Is it almost the same, or is it different kind of freedom?
No, the type of freedom that we are talking about has nothing to do with America or India.
That's true.
See, unless we go beyond this idea, when you say even body and mind, we say we should go beyond. What about the place? Place has no place in the idea of freedom at all.
So you don't think the environment
No.
reflects our freedom?
These are all, only at the mundane level. In our existential life we talk about. There's a very famous story.
Right.
When Alexander, after he conquered India, he was leaving. And then he happened to meet a fakir, who was absolutely had no clothes on, but someone told him that he was a person of extraordinary wisdom. Just talking to him for a few minutes, Alexander also understood. He said, "You come with me to my country." He thought he'll be very tempted and attracted. He laughed, "No, I am very happy here, I don't want to go." So again, 2-3 times he asked him, and then when he was, every time he was refusing, finally he drew his sword and said, "I can kill you this very moment." Then this old man burst into peal of laughter. "What are you talking? You are the worst fool. You kill me? I am who is the infinite boundless Atman. Do you think you can kill me?" And he laughed and laughed, and Alexander was put to shame, and he quickly left the place. So, living in America, living in India, earning money, having no money, these are all much, much lower levels. That's why I said we should just go a notch higher, even to understand, even to get a grasp of this idea. Because no place can ensure freedom. In America also you can be arrested just like that without notice. And India also it can happen. How does it matter? People are just like that. Someone from FBI can come and pick you up and say that you are in jail. No one has even a trace of where you are. In India also it happens. So where is freedom? No freedom anywhere in that sense. Freedom is of a much higher level or higher idea.
Maharaj, he is connected with you.
Oh, wonderful. I
Yes.
could see her beaming face and...
You mentioned the three prerequisites for achieving that state. I remember reading about that in Viveka Chudamani.
Yes.
So I was wondering, who is it that who desires? That's the body or the mind who is desiring that to go beyond the mind. The mind is desiring to go beyond the mind. Is that what?
Yeah, you see, again in Hinduism there is a concept of Jivatma and Paramatma. Jivatma, that which is conditioned by this body, mind and all that, what you call as soul. Paramatma is that supreme self or that of real nature. So the Jivatma which is bound, that feels that it should go beyond this bondage.
So Jivatma, that's a prerequisite.
Yeah.
That the Jivatma must have the desires.
Yeah.
So okay, but that prerequisite of course disappears once the realization
Yeah.
is. Then you're already achieved
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay. So at that stage, so he's talking of a stage.
Yeah, initially all of
Lower
us
stage.
are at the level of...
At the lower level.
Yeah, so all of us feel that. And then once you... See, the point is, that achievement, once you say like that, nothing can stop you at that time. So, can anyone say, with cancer, just operated like that. That means what? Body has completely lost its meaning. It was absolutely irrelevant. It is there or not. For them, world does not exist. This Ramana Maharshi, another incident during his lifetime, his own, his own brother's son or somebody had captured the management of the ashrama and so on. There was a court case, and Ramana Maharshi was hauled up in the court to give witness. When the judge asked something, he said, "World? Where is the world?" So the judge was so shocked, and how do you question this man any further? Oh, Swami, go ahead. No, it was real, not that. He says, when actually it really happened in his life. When an old lady, she came, she had lost her son, she was an illiterate woman, she came and wept and wept. Somebody says, "He's a great soul, go to him." After allowing her to weep for some time, then Maharshi said, "You please go and do this vichara, who am I?" Then another great Swami was nearby. Why do you advise her all that? How she would understand? She's a poor lady, why don't you send her to me? Then Ramana said, "See, that is all I know. What can I teach her? I don't know anything else. How do I teach her anything else which I don't know?" So, once people, when they go to that level, that's why you must read the lives of such great souls, how they have lived. It's not just mere theory or someone says something. Every moment of their life, they will be alive to that. It will never desert them even for a fraction of a second. That is the test of realization. Not that I give you nice glib talks and then go on, I'm busy, completely immersed in the idea of enjoyment. No. Yes.
Swami, it's very easy to understand you. Very good lecture. Thank you so much. So, I've never been to India. The way you speak seems to be pretty westernized. So, what is your story? Did you live somewhere else before?
No. I spent all my life in India. It's the second time I'm coming to America.
Were you born into your spiritual life? Did you automatically, just because your family was involved, or did you have to make that choice yourself? I mean, we all have to make that choice at one point.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
actually, I was fortunate because my mother was extremely spiritually oriented. So I've seen her and she was a great influence. And at some point of time, I also had a good career and so on. And then suddenly it struck me, what exactly is the purpose of life? I may get some more promotions, I may reach this position, that position. It doesn't. I thought it's absolutely useless to pursue. So that brought me to the monastery, trying to find out the answer for the riddle of life, the purpose of life. Somehow I landed in Ramakrishna Monastery.
Question over here, Swami.
Yes.
Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda taught freedom. But was he really free or was he bound by love?
Bound by?
Love.
Yeah, see, that is, when, that is how people who are beyond all this, who are extraordinarily awakened, who are realized souls, what really holds them on this earth? That is this.
It's like
See, they have to, even, see, there is a very famous word, expression. Atma Mayaya, self-delusion, so to say. Absolutely, there is nothing to bind them down. He was a born yogi, he was an adept in meditation. Samadhi was his natural state. He accepted voluntarily. Of course, his guru had to really persuade and pound him, so to say, into acceptance. But when he did, it was because of supreme concern. Just out of infinite, boundless compassion for humanity, he accepted this apparent bondage. But you see his very famous letter, most probably to, I don't know whether to Joe or Mary, very extraordinary letter, where he writes, "O Shiva, I have bundled my belongings, carry me across to the other shore. After all, I am that small boy who used to sit with rapt wonder at the feet of the saint of Dakshineshwar. Work and doing good are all superimpositions. Then when he broke free, nobody could. See, Brother Disciple, no, please don't ask me. That was his answer. Someone who could simply, flare up and smash people or tear them to pieces for the least digression or not something being done properly. He said, please don't ask me.
Is then that the Paratman that desires? Paramatman.
Paramatman does not desire. Paramatman is the supreme state of awareness or that our
But I
oneness.
thought, what is this love? What is this infinite love then?
Infinite love.
Well,
No, you see, the point is, there is when ordinary people like us who are bound, who are rooted in the idea that we are the body and the mind, we are constantly reminded, we succumb, we are bound, we are moved, we are made to act, function and so on. Our love is at that level. This is a love of give and take. All that we call as love in this world. But then there are people, for them, they desire nothing from others. Absolutely total giving. That is possible only when you go beyond the idea that you are this limited individual or limited self. When they become so expanded, when they are able to embrace the entire humanity, so to say, that love is what is called true compassion, where they do it just for the sake of others.
but then is that from their jiva?
No, that is, while functioning, the expressions might come from jiva, but the realization, but the idea originates, is rooted in that supreme knowledge, they are that infinite. See, for
So
the
it's
functional
the conduct-
purposes, you need a body. See, how do you show compassion? How do you express? You need a body, you need a mind, you function from the level of Jivatma, but that understanding is constantly there, that they are that, so they never do anything, any digression or transgression, anything that is limiting, anything that is nature of binding. That's why, when they love also, it doesn't bring any attachment. When normal people show affection and love to us, we become bound, because we are again dragged down to that level. In that level of loving, it's something so supreme, it doesn't bring any bondage. That is why, sometimes they can be extremely harsh to the people for whom they have utmost consideration.
Okay, I think we should, Swami has not eaten his supper yet. And you're staying here, so you can ask him these questions. So thank you all for coming. It's probably a good time for Swami to have a little something to put in his stomach. Okay.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you so much.
Lisa and I will come tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw him at Hollywood. Yeah, he was doing a lecture there.
Where is Usha?